So this is from my debut chapbook titled Irrational, play off the word irrational, obviously, for fears and phobias. And that's what the theme of the poems includes. So I'll just go ahead and start reading the poem called Double Dutch. Pluck out your eyes, feed them to hungry pigeons. There are too many versions of you. You in the rain puddle, schoolyard laughter wisping through the willow trees. You in the hallway, dancing in broken yellow tiles. You in the bathroom, staring at your, notice how you blink, but your eyes don't close. And for a second poem, real quick here, and I'll read fast, but this poem is being published next week on, May 1st, actually, by Stone of Madness Press. And this one is called The Process of Deciphering Jabberwocky. And I'll go ahead and start. So, my mind is not like yours. My neurons form different neural pathways, often winding lassos and erratic zigzags. My brain creates bridges from discarded Lincoln logs. I can explain a lot. I can explain to you the complexities of the plot of that one Sandra Bullock movie. Yes, the one with Keanu Reeves in the cabin on the lake. Yes, the mailbox was a quantum observer, a passage separate from the passing of time, both he and she existing at once, entangled particles sharing a superposition. Time is a construct. I cannot explain to you the Minotaur movements of the human face, the expressions which differentiate sincerity and mockery, though I've come to discover that it tends to fall to the latter. I can explain to you the intricacies of the narrative of that one Taylor Swift song. Yes, the one in which she offered forgiveness to the man who was old enough to know better, that burning ember desire to want to believe that people are more than their worst Septembers, that it was just an off day, that given the opportunity, he wouldn't possibly repeat history, that the wall of yellow flowers was sincere and good. I cannot explain to you the subtleties of the cadence of human voice, the ways in which dancing waves penetrate the hippocampus and uncover your broken shoebox memories, how the waves extract secrets with haunting violin strings. I cannot explain to you the storyline of The Great Gatsby, the reasons why Gatsby wanted to put on the biggest show, the brightest lights, to capture the lost attention of a lost soul, nor the reasons humans, the reasons I, waste so much potential on the things I was too naive to grasp, as if it were possible to dig up old bodies from graves, to breathe life back into the exanimate, to replay their twisted actions with puppet strings, and maybe this time they'll have been kind, that their worst September wasn't all that bad, that Gatsby had just misseen Daisy in the crowd. I cannot explain away all the times my zigzag patterns were used to lead me astray, all the times my lassos were used to bind me in Camp Scout knots. Not every bully in the schoolyard deserves my self-directed excuses, my hopeful embers, my violin strings, not one more second of entanglement of space-time in my mind. I can explain a lot, but I'm tired of all this explaining.
My poem is called The Longing. Me, a pudgy little girl with curly jet black hair and big brown eyes, looks out our dining room window through the branches of the purple lilac tree and watches my father get into his car, something he did almost every Saturday afternoon. He was going to Luciani's, the Italian store, somewhere on the other side of town, somewhere I had never been. I longed to go with him. He'd return home on those Saturday afternoons with packages wrapped in brown butcher paper of cold cuts, prosciutto, capicola, salami, and specialty cheeses, Parmigiana, provolone, and pecorino. My mother would quickly slip them into the crisper, telling me not to touch, hiding away any evidence of my father's journey without me. My father was always busy on Saturday mornings with what remained from his work week, blueprints spread across the dining room table. Saturday afternoon was the only chance for me to be with him, it and Sundays, which was taken up with being Catholic. I would watch my father on weekdays before he left for work in his white shirt and tie, his tall, thin body reaching up to feed the birds perched on his handmade bird feeder, wooden with open sides and peaked roof hanging from the clothesline. I had yearned to go outside to be Daddy's little helper. Sometimes I'd watch him as he bent over his ripening San Marzano tomatoes in his garden hidden behind the garage and below the white lilac tree, hidden like the brown paper packages from Luciani's. Somehow I knew that he was different from the other men in our neighborhood. Not knowing what to say, I would stand back away from him, holding on to our unspoken distance, our unspoken Italianness. At dinner, he would sprinkle pepperoncini, crushed red pepper flakes, on his long spaghetti pasta from a glass jar with dented holes in its steel top, a Southern Italian custom lost on me. Then the day came when I watched him walk to his car more slowly than usual. A mini stroke, they called it. Now, after lunch, he would lie on the couch, covered with a green beige Afghan blanket crocheted by my sister, and I would dare to tickle his full mustache, hoping to see his sparkling hazel eyes and his wide smile. And I would watch him with the deepest sadness, the deepest longing, as he would struggle up the stairs to bed, holding the banister with one hand, his cane in the other, after his evening snack of melted cheese on toast. Then the time came. This time they called it a major stroke. When they came to take him away, he grasped at his lamp, made of pegmatite rock, trying to hold on as long as he could. He didn't want to let go. In his hospital bed, he lay with the same crocheted Afghan blanket and his photo of the Sacred Heart of Jesus as protection. And I watched as they hacksawed his iron engineering ring, his lifeline, from his swelling finger. And I sat and I drew the outline of his face, pen on paper, my lifeline. And now there is no distance, there is no longing, only love remains.
I'm going to do two poems tonight in acknowledgement of Earth Day, American Poetry Month, and Arbor Day. And to help me out in this endeavor tonight, I'm going to use the share screen function. The two poems I'm going to do tonight come from my fifth book, Eloise, Poems, 2013 to 2018. Released Earth Day 2020. So tomorrow is Earth Day, and it also happens to be the 1-year anniversary of this little book here. The first poem comes from the second section of the book entitled Beauty of Nature, from pages 32 and 33. This is called Element 5. Giant white metal pinwheels stand upon sandy brown hills near the California-Arizona border. Circular blades spin and spin, clockwise motion, generating electricity propelled by its energy. Colorless, odorless, shapeless. Still like water, spreading ripples form, dead leaves scatter themselves on the forest floor. Pollen drifts from budding flowers, branches of trees crick slightly, leaves on bushes rustle gently, soda can takes a scraping hike, plastic shopping bag floats and tumbles on its cursory passing. Colorless, odorless, shapeless. On a day full of bluster, like a lonesome coyote in need of a companion, it howls. House windows rattle. Flat skin rises up, prickly goosebumps. Bare face catches the sudden chill. Litter brushed to the wayside like amassing dust. Colorless, odorless, shapeless. There's no denying an all-moving force, constant as the earth, prevalent as the sky, uncontrollable as fire, unpredictable as water, mysterious, fervid. When pondering on creation's great elements, it's left unstated, but the presence is felt, the wind. And a lot of people in North America, in my country, the USA, and in Canada, tend to see the environment as being made of faux elements: earth, water, air, and fire. Whereas in Japan, they have a different take on it. They see the environment as made up of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, sky, and wind. They see wind as being its own thing, because to me, it kind of acts like its own thing, always has. And the last poem comes from the 3rd section of the book, entitled Travels Through Nature. And once again, I'm going to use the share screen function one more time. You see these trees here? This happens to be one of California's most beautiful green areas. I visited here back in September of 2014. And this last poem is an ode to that green area. From pages 44 and 45, this is called Guardians. They stand watch over everything precious that thrived in moist shadows and passed beneath them. Coastal redwoods, towering, supremely thick, rust-colored specimens of wood with 12-inch bark, giant elders, guardians of groves, at first glance intimidating looking, yet inviting, maintained a steady vigil 1,000 years or less. When they wandered through one of the groves, William and Elizabeth Kent witnessed still, unspoiled botanical beauty, vowed its protection from the logger saw's ripping touch, and gave it John Muir's name. Verdant patches of 3-leaf clovers, sprawling coils of fern, tall, slender Douglas fir trees, trying hard to imitate their mightier redwood cousins. Hungry squirrels scamper the dirt floor in a foraging trip. A craving for acorns, fallen or on a branch, needs sating. Lean little trickle of water running down an extensive ditch toward Mount Tamalpay's way. Sorry masquerade is a full rushing creek. The steady march of hikers, boots and sneakers treading new grooves into overworn trails, are offered protection and shade by the guardians in return.
I'm going to be reading also a poem for Earth Day from my second book, Cemetery Compost.
Nice name.
Nice name, great cover. And the poem is called Call Me Gaia. Call me Gaia, Terra, Mother. Any name will do. 3 billion years I've busted my maternal ass for you. Believe me, it's no picnic trying to fine tune a climate for creatures as picky as you. You can't stand it too cold. You can't stand it too hot. Why'd you name this planet Earth? You should have called it Goldilocks. I spent 1 billion years nursing marine microorganisms to make a living, breathing, carbon cycling thermostatic dynamism to pump air you could breathe into the atmospheric system. Without that photosynthesizing phytoplankton I strewed over every inch of ocean, you'd be totally screwed. And you dissolve their shells with all your CO2. For billions of years, I've done nothing but toil to balance biosphere, atmosphere, ocean, soil. So your breath won't freeze and your brains won't boil and you get it in your heads to go drilling for oil. I sequestered excess carbon in the bottom of my seas to scrunch the heat down into those few degrees of your tiny window of viability, and threw in long-term temperature stability to shape this planet as the one and only place in all of space just right for your pampered human race. And for you, it's just a dump for petrochemical waste. 3 billion years of patient symbiotic evolution, and you blowed all the shit with your industrial revolution? 3 billion years I labored to get it just right. and you destroy my hard-won balance fucking overnight. Well, excuse my language, but I am pissed. My whole long life, I've never been so dissed. For 3 billion years, I nursed a dynamic equilibrium, a worldwide web of teeming, interwoven ecosystems, and you rip it to shreds with capitalism, fouling my water, exhausting my soil, devouring my minerals, timbers, and ores with your drilling, blasting, fracking. Where's your sense of limitation? I'm too old. I can't keep up with your disruptive innovations or clean up the latest mess left from your reckless exploitation of every last nook and cranny of my once green creation, all in your worship of commodification. You've stuck me in a no-win situation. I'm depleted, fatigued, seething with frustration. The only cure I can see is complete abdication. You got it. That's right. I'm splitting this scene. You want to run it? Be my guest. Happy Anthropocene.
My poem is very short, and so I would like to read it twice because a poem goes by so quickly. It's down the road before you've even cottoned on to what it's about. And it was inspired by a flock of geese, the sound that they were making as they were flying overhead one migratory season. And since we've just recently had or are still having a migratory season, I thought to pull it out and share it with you. With just this little introductory note, because tensile is a word we don't use very much, so I thought I'd just provide a definition. Tensile means of tension, resistant to breaking under tension, capable of being drawn out or stretched. A spider and a flock. A clamorous gaggle of geese that I cannot see. A single spider that I can. Contrast, like tensile thread, spans between the two. Togetherness and alone. A community on the move, awaiting solitude. One suspended, the other aloft. Limited and capacious. Fixed and free. The one restricted, the others thrusting forth. Exultant and bold. Silent and discreet. Feather and shell. Warm blood, cool juice. A path of air, a labyrinth of silk. I looked up to see a flock, but blocked, I saw a speck, and a cosmos of unity in a universe of dichotomy.
This is a poem about listening and the healing that comes from listening. Poem's called Listen. Now that there are no demands on me or my time, I'm learning to walk without purpose. I'm learning to walk as fast or slow as I wish and to stop whenever something speaks to me in a way that draws me near. It might be the birds singing somewhere in the trees. It might be the sun breaking through the clouds and streaming over the fields, or the cows grazing in the fields. The mothers looking up, watchful of their calves, the calves without a care, stretching their heads through the barbed wire for the tall grass just within reach. There is a tree I pass on my morning walk. All the leaves have fallen, and only the seed pods remain. They are shaped like ears, as if they were asking me to listen in a way that sends roots deep into the earth. When I listen in this way, I feel my branches stretching as far as I can see. I feel the birds perching on my branches and their song coursing through me like sap from my deepest roots to my tallest branches. And I feel the warmth of their song streaming over my fields, and I taste the sweetness of their song in the tall grass just within my reach.
This is a recent one entitled Inclusive Reckoning. Are those people yours or mine? Over there, the ones with hand-hewn cabins, rickety livestock, and bushwhacked footpaths to the weeds by the rail track, earning a proud living from the land or mooching off the folk nearabouts, depending on the story spun through the shapes of the forest. From here, I don't see their color of skin and cannot claim to be in their company. Back then, give or take a decade or two, depending on the story collection, my folk wore formal attire to work, his pinstripes and her starched apron, as they were trained in the hotel trade near mainline railway stations, suspended between smoke-filled cities. This was their ticket to get away from the sandstone tenements and red brick bungalows that crowded out the fields of their childhood imaginations. Hotel is hardly a home for putting down roots, a nomadic camp like military or hunter-gatherers, marking us as a disparate clan with ears to the ground for moving trains, as opposed to swinging from limbs already grown before childhood. The served and the servers, the aspirants and the chasers after what, and the leaving behind something to have escaped from, and always at the risk of being misunderstood for staying or going. Are these people mine or yours?
I'm reading a very short poem by Christos. Some of you may know about Christos. She's a First Nations poet. This book is called Not Vanishing. And Richard Wright, whom she's writing about, is just about my favorite novelist. And he's a haiku poet. And if no one has checked out his haiku, whoa, check it out. Richard Wright, I wish you were here. It's 1987. I'm writing this on a paper bag at the Quickie store where we've stopped for lunch. And I noticed the home video cassette for a fine movie made from your book, Native Son, which I'd like to see again, even though we don't have a VCR. Make a tornado in your grave now for 6 pictures on the cover of the box. 5 of these are of white actors, one of whom I don't even remember. The one black face in a movie of black life is Oprah Winfrey, who plays Bigger's mother. Victor Love, the star, the native son, is not pictured even on the back, even tiny. I need you, Richard Wright, to stare at me across this formica table, our eyes flaming with indigestion and high blood pressure, nodding slowly as we murmur, yeah, only in America. Yeah, the central character lands on the publicity floor. If he's a black man, Richard Wright, please shrug for me as I leave for work, where I could talk about this, watch the veils slide over their white eyes. Yeah, America.